Hey guys, what up? This is GtMichaels 2002 and welcome to another episode of Late Night Spooks. Today we'll be going through an iceberg. Now, for all of you who don't know what an internet iceberg is, it is a picture of a real life iceberg. And you ever heard of that phrase, the tip of the iceberg? You know, it's not all there, and that's because an iceberg is like 90% underwater. So an internet iceberg works off of that by creating kind of like a tier list. You've all seen the A, B, C+, B+, whatever tiers that people do on YouTube, usually with like fast food and, you know, movies and all that sort of stuff. Well, this is different. It usually starts with the tip of the iceberg, which is things that are most well known, and then goes down to the depths, which is pretty much for things you have to be an expert on to know about. So it can be on conspiracy theories, it can be on very dark subjects, and that's what they usually are on. This iceberg that we'll be looking at goes through the dark documentaries that are found throughout the world. Obviously, not all of them are there, and it's very objective. But to a wider audience, I do have to agree, these seem to be some of the most shocking documentaries, but for good reasons, as they do highlight and explain some of the darker things in life, so we can appreciate the better things in life. That's just how I see it, anyway. So, without further ado, we're going to do the first tier out of 10 tiers leading all the way to the depths. And it does get kind of full on. Even though it's more well known, doesn't mean it's not disturbing in any way. So we'll be slowly getting progressively, obviously, lesser known and probably more dark, because it is lesser known. And that's usually how it kind of goes. You know, if you go into the depths, it becomes creepier, because usually when things aren't very well known, you know, for example, with internet icebergs, things that are not very well known are usually dark web stuff, and we all know how fucked up that stuff can be. Also, guys, a short disclaimer, this video in itself will contain a lot of references to animal cruelty and abuse, as well as, you know, murder and just general violence in itself. If any of these disturb you, I do not recommend watching this video. Just by talking about them, I won't be showing anything too graphic or anything like that, anything that's, you know, not safe for work. You might see some images that might shock you that I might show you, but they're, you know, they're media images that, you know, should not really, you know, tick too many bells. But I'm just giving you a fair warning that if you would not be comfortable going into that sort of zone, then don't be surprised if some of that sort of stuff comes up in this video. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, get some popcorn, and it's time for some late night spooks. And yeah, let's start this iceberg. So the first documentary we'll be talking about on this list is a film by the name of Blackfish that was released in 2013. This film is very well known, so it's pretty much at the very tip of tier 1 of the iceberg. So I myself have watched this film back in high school, so it just goes to show, you know, it's not that bad of a film, but it does contain some harrowing details, and let me get into that for you. So this film is about a killer whale, or an orca, called Tilikum. And Tilikum, also known as Tilly, is a killer whale that has been an entertainer at the SeaWorld Orlando branch for a very long time, for all of his life. So this documentary pretty much delves into the life of Tilikum, but uses him to branch out into the life of other orcas kept at the SeaWorld parks, and to show how their treatment and, you know, the place that they're kept is not as nice as it seems to the viewers of a killer whale show. I'm sure we've all heard of Shamu. It does go into Shamu a little bit, I'm pretty sure, but it really does focus on Tilikum, because Tilikum, believe it or not, has killed 3 people, had killed 3 people during his lifetime. Unfortunately, Tilikum had passed away in 2017 due to a bacterial infection. This whole documentary seems to want to aid the movement of you know, animal protection and deep investigation to SeaWorld. I actually myself have been to SeaWorld Orlando. We didn't go and see any killer whale show, and Shamu had already passed. Sorry, not Shamu. Tilikum had already passed by then. But yes, let me go into a little history about the deaths Tilikum has caused. The first trainer to be killed was a woman in Canada by the name of Kelty Byrne. After she was dragged underwater during a show and drowned and killed, Tilikum was brought to SeaWorld Orlando to the States. Not too long after moving to the States, Tilikum then went on to kill a man by the name of Daniel P. Dukes. Daniel P. Dukes. And rest in peace to this guy. It was quite tragic. I mean, rest in peace to everyone involved in these killer whale killings. Some people, doing what they love. But this man was killed. He was found lying dead on Tillikim's back in Tillikim's sleeping pool. And he was found heavily mutilated, also missing his genitalia. That was a key fact in the autopsy report. And it seems as though the cause of death was drowning, so killer whales, orcas, are known for dragging their prey under the water to drown them first, kind of like how a crocodile does with their death roll. The most infamous case that went viral, spawning this Blackfish documentary, is also bringing to light a lot of the issues that might have been going on at SeaWorld, was the death of Dawn Brandshaw. Now, while Dawn Brandshaw was doing Dine with Shamu, Tillikim dragged her underwater, and she was shown screaming. She wasn't. Well, there is actually, this is one of those clips that are said to not be in existence anymore, but there is full footage of her being dragged under the water, having her arm ripped out, being scalped and eaten and drowned. The footage has never made it to the light of the public, to the light of day, but it is said to still exist somewhere. However, they did get first part of the footage and other snippets of the footage into Blackfish from the source of the footage, of the harrowing footage. So yeah, there's a fair warning. There is a lot of heavy detail that goes into this film. Probably not anything that's shown graphic, I don't remember, but I do remember there was cell phone footage or camera footage of the incident of Dawn being pulled underwater. I don't think it showed that part, but it was leading right up to it, and you can kind of see just before Tillikim snaps, and it leaves it to the imagination, which I think can be a little bit more harrowing. But yeah, fair warning. And also, it just goes to show killer whales, creatures, if they're not treated well, it may lead to aggression. And SeaWorld actually tried to end up blaming Dawn for this incident, saying that her ponytail was not tied up correctly. She didn't have her hair tied up at all, but as you can see, a lot of trainers also did that. And the fact that SeaWorld had gone out to say, it was, if Dawn was here, she would say it was her fault that she died. A bit insensitive, to say the least, that she could not defend herself. Anyways, rest in peace to all the trainers, as well as the one man who had stayed past park hours and gone into Daniel P. Dukes. He stayed past hours, so rest in peace to everyone involved, and hopefully we can avoid these incidents in the future and killer whales can get the treatment they deserve. Moving on. Going down again on the tier list, we have Tiger King. This is a 2020 Netflix series that is still up and running. The third series pardon me. The third season has just been released in December. Not just, but very recently, I guess, in terms of, saying things are recent. It was a big hit. I remember everyone talking about Tiger King. You got to see it. It's shocking, all that. Again, this has to do with animal abuse and attempted murder. So all three seasons are linked together due to one man, and that man is a guy by the name of Joe Exotic. So Joe Exotic was an exotic cat owner, owned his own zoo, and he had a long feud with a CEO of Big Cat Rescue called Carol Baskins, who always accused him of abusing his cats and saying that they are illegally kept there, illegally bought, and must be brought to a proper rehabilitation center. I'm going to say this first season is probably what this Iceberg kind of incorporates, because the first season does go through the main events. The second and third season obviously focus on the same situation, but with different people involved that may have had something to do, like accessories to the case. The darker side comes when it's found out that Joe actually tried to hire a hitman to kill Carol Baskins. It did not go through as far as I know. I did watch Tiger King, only the first season. Haven't seen the other two, but that was back in 2020, so 2 years now. So I had to catch up on that, but it did not go successfully, and he was ultimately charged with attempted murder, obviously, because of the hitman. He served 22 years in prison. I think he's still in there. I actually don't know. I'll leave somewhere on the screen if he is still in here or not. He was also charged with, I have to look at this, violations towards the Lacey Act and Endangered Species Act. So he was not only owning endangered species and buying endangered species, but he was also mistreating endangered species as well as starving the cats. And these cats were tigers, lions, jaguars, and there were 68 exotic cats that were taken from his property after he was put into jail. Now, they also found out he was only feeding his cats whole chicken, which itself is not nutritionally acceptable for a cat's diet. They need more than that to sustain themselves, like vegetables and all that sort of stuff. They need good food. These are big cats we're talking about here, so you can't just give them like a little can of whatever the cat food they're selling these days. So talking about like disturbing things that happen, this does go into it's a pretty wild story, and I think that's why it blew up on Netflix. It captures a lot of emotions, not only towards animals but towards innocent people too, as well as just how selfish someone can be. And you do see animals mistreated due to misbehaving or something, but an animal's an animal. You can't make it a perfection. Nothing is perfect, not even a pit person. How can you expect an animal to be the same? Not saying these cats aren't smart, just why would you try and force them to be something that they're not? It does also show blurred footage of one of Joe Exotic's workers getting his arm bitten off by a tiger. So if you're squirmy with that sort of stuff, and even when it's blurred, then maybe avoid that. I think that was actually in the first episode, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong. Moving on. So yes, I apologize to all you animal lovers. There is another film on this list that has to do with animal abuse and mistreatment, which is Food Inc. from 2008. So this is known as one of the main extreme animal activist documentaries that was released that really shows the truth and real footage from inside of these animal farms, factories, slaughterhouses. This is where this starts to become that sort of deal. Now, I'm all for this sort of documentation. As we move on further, you'll see how extreme it does get with this sort of, documentation style with secret cameras and all that sort of stuff, and corruption and all that. And it's really hard to stay a meat eater when watching these. I've heard, and just from seeing reactions to it, it's hard. But Food Inc. I have not seen. It's the first on this list that I have not seen, and you'll probably have to get used to that because I don't think I've really seen anything else. But yes, it deals with just the awful side of American meat industry, and obviously heavy animal abuse, especially with chickens and cows. And there's apparently a really sad scene with chickens on a conveyor belt, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen those Instagram, Facebook videos surfacing, from the animal rights groups, showcasing how they break their necks or the heads off of chickens just to kill them quickly, and how they're left with broken legs and stuff like that. It's just awful. As an animal lover myself, it hurts. So yeah, it might be sensitive to viewers, but this is a PG film. I feel like they describe this film as if it's much more educational than shocking, even though shocking is educational in its very own tough love way. It also showcases the workers who have been abused by this industry as well, and just had to do what they have to do for money, and sadly it damaged their psyche and their emotional health. So there you go. It's always been Food Inc. has always been mentioned above with some of the other ones that will be coming up on this list. And this list is very heavily reliant on these animal abuse documentaries. It's very heavily compact of it. But I still say you should watch it just to pay respect and actually see what's going on. I think we need to. I think these animals at least deserve to know what's happening to them by the people who are eating them. So, absolutely. Moving on. Next on this list, we have a documentary called The Sweatbox from 2002. This documentary takes a look behind the scenes of the making of a film called The Emperor's New Groove. Might have heard of it, but it was also first called The Kingdom of the Sun, but it got changed during production. And this film, this documentary showcasing the behind the scenes, was produced by Disney, and it's about a film The Emperor's New Groove is a Disney film, so it's a very interesting take. You don't see, and that's what I thought. Like, this might not be something so bad, because why would like a company expose itself in any bad way? Why SeaWorld didn't make Blackfish. But anyways, apparently the dark side to this film is just showcasing the amount of hard work and stress that goes into a film like this, with so many people and so many ideas and just thoughts that go into it. Some people might feel unheard, and the mental health. I think it's more about the mental health and stress in the workplace more than anything, because people seem to, a lot of instances apparently, I'm just judging off of reviews, that people have their ideas turned down, or they need to change something they spent weeks working on. So it can be, I'm sure we've all felt like that at some point in our life. So maybe just try and document the mental health and stressful environment that these people are going through, that I experienced for many months during production. So interesting. I think it'd be an interesting watch. If any of you guys watch it, let me know if it's anything worth a watch, because it doesn't seem like it's on anything too violent. So hey, it might be good going into to see the behind the scenes of an animation. Who knows? Moving on. Alright, next up on this list is something that you might not expect. It's the original 2010 Catfish documentary. If you're thinking, is this the start to the Catfish, the TV show? 100% yes. It's the same people from that same filmers and the same main guy, Nev Schulman. So pretty much before he became the host of Catfish, Nev was in this documentary exploring, I suppose, catfish, before apparently the term was even coined. This is the documentary that is said to have brought the term catfish to life. And actually, I'll give you an explanation about that soon. But let me just describe the synopsis of the documentary a little bit more. Nev develops an online relationship, well, not in a weird way, but apparently just like a friendship with a young boy named Abby, apparently. And Abby's entire family then starts messaging him too, and he finds this weird. So obviously it's being documented by his brother, who's also a director and writer of the TV show that followed, and another one of his friends. So it starts to sound a little bit pretty weird. Nothing too weird. Like, it's pretty weird, but like it's not too like dark, right? Well, then it turns out that later into the documentary, the mother called Angela confesses that all the accounts are coming from her account, from her specifically. Now that starts to make him question, who really is Angela? Is it really a woman named Angela? Is it really a woman with this family? Or is it a catfish? Someone pretending to be someone that they're not, for attention and to entertain themselves. So if you're wondering, where does the term, how did they coin the term catfish? Well, Nev related Angela to a catfish in a cod tank. Now, if you don't know, codfish when they're shipped with live catfish to keep them active and to keep them, lively and entertained while being through the shipping process. Now, in the same way that a catfish entertains the cod, a catfish entertains its victims, entertaining the idea that these victims are, who they think they are. And I don't know, maybe that plays into the fact that cod are kind of like, because he's going, like, Angela is like a catfish in that regard. Like, actually like that, like the animal, the catfish. And that's where the term catfish came from, just someone who entertains, and that's how they get away with it. So yeah, then it just turns to the TV show afterwards. It's pretty much just what I've heard described, it's a long version of the TV show, like episode. So if you want to see where it all started, if you're a fan of the original TV show, I highly recommend this. I myself was not too much of a fan. It just, I don't know, didn't really enthrall me. It honestly, if anything, it just teaches you to be safe on the internet when you're young, and I think that's a healthy enough lesson to let this series go on, as well as to view this documentary. So if you haven't already, give it a watch. I haven't, but I definitely will, because I'm just too damn curious to see how it started. So yeah, there you go. Not dark at all, just very interesting. Alright, moving on to the final three. For number 6, we have Gimme Shelter, which is a documentary about the Rolling Stones and how one of their band tours led to a horrible mishap. So, "Gimme Shelter," if you don't already know, is the title of one of the titular songs created by yours truly, the Rolling Stones, and is part of their album "Let It Bleed." If for all of you that are interested, want to maybe give it a listen. But yeah, it's definitely that's definitely where they got the name for the documentary from. "Gimme Shelter," and it takes place during the last few weeks of their 1969 US tour. And there was a awful event that happened, and the actual name for this event, the event is what they call the Ultimate Free Concert Incident. So this is where a fight broke out between the audience and Hell's Angels and members of the Hell's Angels gang, which is a very dangerous bike gang and bike club, very outlawish, known to be very outlawish, still going on to this day. And this documentary was made in 1970, so it was made only a year after these events happened. So you can definitely you can tell it's very fresh in the minds of people who are creating this documentary. So it makes it a little bit more harrowing. So before the Rolling Stones went on the stage, the Flying Burrito Brothers and Jefferson Airplane were there to perform, but Marty Bolan, the lead singer of Jefferson Airplane, was actually knocked out by a member of the Hells Angels. It got into a really big fight, and there's a lot of and then audience members tried to defend people on stage, and it just became an ongoing fight, just fueled by drugs and alcohol. Not a very good mix. After the Rolling Stones came on and started performing Under My Thumb, an 18-year-old drug-fueled, enraged, and homicidal Meredith Hunter approached the Rolling Stones. He approached the stage twice. On the first attempt, he was escorted back by Hell's Angels with, a couple kicks and punches and whatnot. The second time he tried to approach the stage, he actually started to pull out a .22 caliber pistol out of his pocket, probably aiming to kill someone from the Rolling Stones. The Hell's Angels member that was restraining him at the time actually then pulled out a knife on him and stabbed him 6 times. Now, the most disturbing part of this incident is that there was actually someone on stage recording the incident without even knowing. They were just recording the band's performance, and little did they know, they just captured one of the most infamous deaths during a concert in history. So yes, the footage of the killing is actually shown in the final edit of the doco. I don't know if it's the full footage, but I know the killing is shown, and I don't know how well it is. I don't know if it's into the crowd and you can see a scuffle, but as little or as much that they show, I can still tell it's going to be a bit of a traumatic thing to see. Yeah, a little bit of dark history about a world famous band. So if you're very interested, if you're a fan of the Rolling Stones, you might want to see what happens, because it just shows the dark side of touring and bands and performances. It happens all the time, and usually we don't even hear about it. So let this documentary tell the story, and maybe respect the safety you have at concerts these days. Alright, now we're getting into the really messed up stuff. Again, another disclaimer warning, these last two deal heavily with animal cruelty, torture, and slaughtering. These are very well-known documentaries, especially the one that I'm about to say. The one I'm about to say might be the most disturbing on this list, in my opinion. Just by seeing the internet, I have not seen one review saying that it is not disturbing, and didn't make them want to turn the video off as soon as it started. The film I am talking about is a 2005 documentary called Earthlings. This is like the pivotal animal. It was like the entryway, as well as the still like the like standard for animal cruelty documentaries or extreme animal activist documentaries. And it's what I've heard, I don't want to watch it. I myself can watch a lot of things. I can watch any serial killer footage. I can see any murder thing. But when it comes to animal suffering, something about that innocence, it just kills to watch. I remember watching the Yulin Dog Festival, but this sounds 10 times worse. I remember when Yulin Dog Festival, dogs were getting their paws chopped off. I'm not going to show that anywhere here, of course, but they were showing these videos with the main goal of trying to get people to go, stop doing this, right? Because without the truth, there is no way. There's no road to pave. You can't pave the way for reformation. So, anyways, Earthlings is actually narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, the Academy Award nominee. Not nominee. Well, he was a nominee. He was a winner for Joker in 2019, and everyone knows him now. If you didn't already, I mean, everyone pretty much knew him back then anyways. But yeah, this was a good, 17 years ago. This Earthlings was released, and Joaquin Phoenix is a very he's very public about being a full-on vegan, animal activist, and environmentalist. And this documentary is made by another guy by the name of Sean. I think it was Sean Monson. Yeah, Sean Monson. Now, this documentary goes into different places. It doesn't just show the slaughtering of animals at slaughterhouses and abuse of animals on farms and, animals we expect to be abused. No, it goes further than that. It goes to puppy stores, mills for puppies, puppy mills, and animal shelters of all kinds, and just shows that no animal is safe in this world from us disgusting, sick humans. Apparently most of the people who watch this want to go vegan, and it's the closest, it's one of the biggest moves to veganism. There was actually a sequel to Earthlings called Unity, which was released in 2015. Again, directed, written, and produced by Sean Monson. Joaquin Phoenix is involved in this, but only by 1/100th. Why? Because there are over 100, let me read the list: actors, artists, athletes, entertainers, musicians, military personnel, businessmen and women, filmmakers, and authors. And they all come together to describe how life on Earth should be united as one. So another very big environmentalist film, heavily extremist animal rights movement. It's very extremist, but I agree with it. We should, of course, I'm all for happy and peace. I feel like I'm studying psychology so I can help people in the future. Of course I want that, and I love animals and I love people, and I want everyone to combine as one. But yeah, it is very one-sided, but I don't blame them. There is nothing negative about the message at all. It's all for the good, stopping torture of animals, of course. I'm actually personally scared to watch it because I feel like it'll turn me into a vegan, but maybe that's a good thing. So maybe I would. To respect the animals, maybe I should. But yeah, I've seen a person review, a non-vegan review or react to this documentary, and it tells you what's going on the thing, and you can hear Joaquin Phoenix explaining what's happening, and you can hear the screams of the animals with really, really sad music, and just what the description apparently was what's happening on screen, the guy's reaction, and he's apparently an ex-cop or whatever, and he's squirming and just almost wanting to say shut it off, and just hearing the screams of animals themselves made me sick to the stomach. So it definitely seems like a very, very hard watch that is completely uncensored media, folks. That's what documentaries are all about. But yeah, there's another film that people also often relate Earthlings to, not only Food Inc. that we mentioned beforehand, but Dominion, which was released in 2018, which is an Australian-made film. Was not Sean Monson was involved in the way of co-producing, but it was directed, written, and fully produced by someone else. But it focuses on the same sort of intense animal rights movements that this Earthlings does. So very much the same thing, but Earthlings is still said to be the premiere, and Dominion is very much heavily based off of Earthlings, but Earthlings is the OG, you could call it, of animal abuse documentaries, and just animal abuse exposed pretty much. Also, just to show you how big this film was amongst vegans and going vegan in the vegan community and animal rights movement as well, because it was such a harrowing film and it moved so many people to veganism that a man by the name of Maxim Kryvosh seized a bus with 13 people in Ukraine, and in June 2020, so this was not long ago, this is way 15 years after Earthlings was released, and he demanded the Ukrainian president, which we should all know now to be Volodymyr Zelensky. I think I butchered his first name, but we all know Zelensky, due to Russia being an asshole to the Ukraine, but I digress. And he asked Mr. Zelensky to post on social media, go watch Earthlings. He really wanted everyone to see that and change their ways, because apparently it was that morbid and shocking that it would change many people to veganism. So he ended up saying on Facebook, Zelensky actually went up to Facebook. We know he's good with social media. He went to Facebook and posted a video saying everyone should watch Earthlings. And after that, Kryvosh released the hostages. Everyone was safe and everything. But Sean Monson, which we all know as to be the director, writer, and producer of Earthlings, came out to say, hey, this was not really, really agreeing with the point of the documentary. You went against it. You're promoting anti-violence with violence. So take that as you will. So Sean Monson just really did not appreciate that. And I'm sure this Kryvosh guy feels pretty silly at the moment. So yeah, very contradictory, isn't it? I guess some people say, you gotta fight fire with fire. Evil with evil. I guess so, but who knows? Who knows if that was successful in promoting it? It already is worldwide famous. So I do have to say, from what I've heard myself from this film, like the sounds I've heard, and some of the graphics I've actually seen, only watch this on empty stomach, because if you have any humanity in you, even a slither, it'll be brought out of you in seconds. Tears everywhere. I can imagine. So yeah, very, very shocking film indeed. So definitely probably even deserves to be lower, but it's very well known, so it's at the tip of the iceberg. Anyways, moving on to the final film. So, after talking about Earthlings, we're going to talk about another animal abuse film for the last entry on this tier, and that is The Cove from 2009. This was actually an American documentary that won the Best Documentary Feature Academy Award, so an Oscar. So that just shows, and I'm pretty sure Earthlings won a lot of awards as well. So this documentary highlights the cruelty of dolphin hunting in Japan, and the film calls for the halt of all the inhumane killings and torturings of innocent dolphins in the area. And it really does aim to shock younger viewers into promoting a safer, happier environment for these dolphins in the future. But obviously we can only do so much. It also tries to say, eating dolphin is dangerous. There's no reason to kill them, because if you're going to eat them, they can cause mercury poisoning. So that's a very, weird, odd fact, but the more you know, right? So the film contains extremely graphic imagery of dolphins being slaughtered and beaten to death with absolute cruelty, it seems. The Japanese have actually come out many years after this film was made and tried to state, hey, this is part of our culture. We've been hunting whales for centuries. Now we're hunting, we're hunting these. Our people, we don't get many livestock, so this is the best stuff we have. And, it's, like small whales, I guess, because they're kind of part of the same family of creatures. But people say that what they're doing is not humane. Animal experts saying that the way they do kill the dolphins does indeed cause them pain. I'm just going to show you a photo up here of how red the water gets with blood, just from a day's work of hunting these dolphins. And if you're a dolphin lover, this is going to be so hard to watch. I don't mean to make it funny. It is really, really bad, but I don't think it's as bad as Earthlings, to be very honest. People who see people always go fishing and all that, so it might be a little bit more desensitized to these violence. Obviously understand the cruelty of it and empathize with that, but it might not be gut-wrenching. It just might be disturbing in itself. Just disturbing, really, because they are very intelligent creatures, and they're treated like they're just some fish that's being, fucking having its neck cut and all that sort of stuff. But it's like it's been very much put together with other extreme animal activist documentaries like Earthlings, Blackfish, and Dominion. The Cove does show incredibly graphic imagery, so I guess that's why it gets its entry on this list. And also it does deal with a very sensitive issue, so again, I think it's going to be a good watch. I definitely want to have a look at that, because it seems like it's something full on. I remember watching Gordon Ramsay talking about shark killings, like even having shark fin soup in China, I think it was, and it didn't even taste like anything. So he was like, why are we killing off these endangered species of shark and torturing them and all that just to have a tasteless bowl of soup? Apparently it's medicinal and Chinese medicine. And like there's videos of like them hunting sharks, and like they literally cut all the fins off the shark, and while it's still alive and flapping around, they dump it back into the ocean. Like, how bad is that? And they did show the footage of that happening, like the secret footage of that happening, and Gordon almost like lost it. So I think this is going to be pretty much the same sort of thing. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching, making it through with me, through all this sort of crap. Well, not crap. I really respect all these films. and you know, they all have a purpose. That's why I think this is a great iceberg to focus on. Not many people focus on documentaries, but they, I think, are some of the most important films ever made. They really focus on heavy details, and they can show uncensored details because they are educational in nature. And that's what this all is. It's all about just like tough love in terms of education. You really got to see the world to appreciate it. And the regular news does not give us that opportunity, and we're kind of blind. Why do you think LiveLeak became such a big deal? They were even petitioning to get LiveLeak back because it showed real gruesome imagery, but made life more, you know, showed more realistic side to life that you don't usually see. We only see the happy things. Obviously the news can be more negative in stance, but you get what I mean. It's just that unseen stuff. You know, you need one half to make the other half, right? The good and the bad. And until we, you know, appreciate what we have on this earth and try and make a difference in our lifestyles, do we like ever feel like we've really, you know, made our life the best we can. So yeah, join me next time for going into tier 2. Each tier has around 8 films, and there's 10 tiers to follow. It does go as low as 6 films, but everything else is pretty much 8 films. I don't remember which tier 6 is on, but 6 films are on. But yeah, it does get pretty full on. But I think this was actually going to be a very intense tier, because it's just, even though they're very well known, they're well known for a reason, because they shocked. So I guess in a different way, these are some of the most disturbing films. So we're off with a bang. We're starting off with a bang. So yeah, guys, good night, sleep tight, don't let any of the spooks bite. See you guys.